who, if you watch those games, regressed every single game. I'm not saying he was bad, but he got worse every single game. To me, that tells me the film is out. The defensive coordinators know how to beat you. If that's the case. What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first off the bench. It is time for another episode of our Saturday staple here on the network. Two Bs on a pod. I am, of course, your first B, Brandon Ferst. Find me on Twitter at FerstReport, FERST. The other B in this pod is Coach Brandon Lupian. You can find him on Twitter at Portland 76er. Coach Lupian, good morning. How you doing today?
Another good morning. Looking forward to today. Got a long day, got a long weekend, and this is the right way this is the way it's always been kicked off for me. Moving forward, things might change. So enjoy the time now and get it done and talk sports with my good friend here and ready to roll. Right.
Amen. Yeah. And not a ton of sports news, but the news that did come down was very juicy. It was a kind of that hearty meal. You might not get seconds of that beef stew, but you're going to get a lot of that first helping. And that's what we got this week. The biggest news, obviously, in San Diego, around town, maybe in Major League Baseball, is obviously Fernando Tatis signing a massive 14-year, $340 million contract. Lots of talk around Major League Baseball, and really outside of San Diego, a lot of people, maybe, I don't want to say throwing shade or, maybe asking questions of, is this right, blah, blah, blah. But I'll tell you this right now, as a Padre fan, someone who grew up there my entire life with really only having one player be my own. Every other player was, okay, we either get them at the end of their career or the beginning, and the first time they touch free agency or even sniff free agency, they're going to be traded. Yeah. Tony Gwynn was the only one that didn't do that, and that was, because Tony Gwynn was just wanted to stay here, period. Yeah. And now with the Padres in the last, 3 years, when you see the memes of Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis, they make more money than the entire team combined from 2000 to 2019, or 2018 pre-Manny. That just tells you the different mindset of this ownership group. And the biggest problem I had with the Padres before all this, this ownership group came in and really wanted to try it was they never actually tried. They tried to put patchwork. I loved watching Greg Maddux. But I would have liked to watch Greg Maddux maybe in his early 30s, not his early 40s. Right. I would have loved to see David Wells in his prime, not late in his career. I would have loved to see Adrian Gonzalez finish his career or at least sign a contract with the Padres. Did not happen. Fernando Tatis, whether this works or not, this tells me that the Padres ownership group is no longer hiding behind a small market mentality. They're no longer trading away their best players. They're actually doing the opposite. They're going into other teams and taking them. This is 100, 360, 720 degrees difference in terms of what this ownership group is bringing to the table. Will it succeed? I don't know. But as I always say, as Wayne Gretzky says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So will it work? Will it win us World Series? I don't know, but I can guarantee you one thing. With Fernando Tatis signed up for the next 14 years, the Padres have a better shot at it. And at the end of the day, when we get to go back to Petco, I know personally for me, I now have no problem spending $15 on a beer, knowing that I am watching one of the top 5 teams in baseball, maybe overall the most exciting. So I'm really excited for obviously Tatis to be here. 14 years, that's a lot but at the same time, he is only 22. He'll be 35 by the
36.
end of it's all over. Yeah, 35, 36. You know, if we get 10, 12 good years of Fernando Tatis doing what he can do, and maybe the last part of it's maybe a bit of a decline, I'm perfectly fine with that because we will probably have someone who will be having a statue right there next to Tony Gwynn. I think that's where Fernando is, at least the trajectory. But the next 14 years will have something to do with that. But there will be with the Padres, unless something really bad happens. And believe me, the next topic we're going to get to is something really bad happens. So, assuming that everyone stays happy in this relationship, 14 years of Fernando Tatis, I can't wait. Coach, your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't wait either. I mean, it it was exciting news on our Wednesday podcast when it flashed on my phone, and I was like, "Come on now!" I didn't even. I just immediately announced it without checking the resources or to see if that name had a check next to it. But usually when I get my feed pop-ups from Bleacher Report, they're real. They're real. So it's an exciting time, and I had to refocus back onto football. But I'll tell you right now, I was like driving and trying to scroll, like how much this kid signed for. But I'm glad you brought up the commitment level of ownership group, because yes, it's about time, and yes, you know what it is. It's just refreshing. It really is, and I don't want to say this is the reason. I don't want to say the Chargers leaving is the reason why the Padres are just freewheeling and spending. I have a feeling the pieces were gonna come into play to compete with the Chargers in our town, um, at this level, at this trajectory rate. I mean, the hirings of AJ Preller and I don't want the freedom that they've given, because he's just not like writing checks without checking with boss, right? But the freedoms have get has him they've given him just kind of like accumulate to not just Tatis Jr.'s contract, but like Manny's contract, Haas's contract, just the accumulation of commitment that is just new to us in San Diego. It's refreshing. It's nice to know that, you know what, by the time this cat's 36 and I'll be whatever, I'm going to be able to enjoy a very good chunk of lifetime like I did watching a Tony Gwynn, right? Like I'm assuming I'm going to be able to watch a Manny he's tied up for 10. Well, he's already 3 years in, so 7 more years of Manny, and then Tatis for 14. And honestly, like the numbers staggering, 640 million between the two. Like that's not even my concern, or that's not even. It's not my money, one, but it's not even a thought, is what I'm trying to say, because I'm more happy with the commitment that this ownership group has taken. Um, and yeah, I like your trip back memory lane. I would have loved to have seen a Maddox in his prime. I would have loved to see Adrian Stay, local boys. I would have loved to have seen David Wells in his prime, because in his prime, the cat threw a perfect game. Yeah, the stars got to be lined up, but you know what? We're still an organization searching for a no hitter. You know what I mean? So I would have loved to have seen all that, and now I get to share my fandom with you and my son and whomever else comes down the line, and it's like, let's go to the ballpark, let's see El Nino, because he's an attraction, and he's going to put people in the seats. But not only that, look at the supporting cast. I love the supporting cast in the next couple of years. Let's not forget, we got a Clevenger who's just filthy, who's coming back next year. The Nelson Lamet, filthy. We got you still tied up. We got Blake Snell tied. So in the more recent years coming up, it's going to be an exciting time, and I would love just to get to the ballpark, plop a towel down at the park in the park, and figure out what I'm going to eat, watch a ball game, socialize, just even if it's with a mask, I'll do it, right? But I want to see, we're able to see um, this undertaking of a man child as he develops. I'm excited for it. And hey, haters are gonna hate, but that's what they're supposed to do. I'll be honest. I can't say I didn't hate, when the Dodgers acquired Mookie Betts. I wasn't talking crap about either one, but man, I hated that move for us. You know what I mean? On a different level. But this is I don't know if you were able to see um the investment fund that profited off Nando. 27.2 million bucks owed to this investment firm. And I had no idea this was even relevant. What do you think?
It's very common with Latin players who maybe need a little bit of an early loan, or and their play is their equity. As far as I know, now I'm sure there are definitely some unsavory characters in this world, but it is a bit of an investment in terms of a payback on redemption, not, oh hey, we did this and then you hurt yourself and you never, it's kind of for the investment firm. Now once again, there are probably unsavory, shady characters in this situation, but for the most part it is, okay, you're put down whatever X number of dollars, we'll take a percentage of whatever signing, whether it's throughout your career, your first contract with the team, whatever that is. But if for whatever reason, hey, you don't make it, I don't believe you have to pay that money back. Now, this was an interesting one to me. Generally, when you are talking about, players that do this, it's not players that have, relevant juniors at the end. Now, I don't know the financial of Fernando Tatis Sr., but, normally some of the Latin American players coming here, the money is, a lot different here. The minimum that we talk about here is they will line up in a second to do that. If you need any example of that, you go look at a lot of people last, I think it was 2 years ago, Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. Signed some contracts that were very, very team friendly. Very team friendly. And there were a lot of people who were frustrated about that. Part of it was an investment firm was going to take percentages of that. And another part of it is, look, when you're 14, 15 years old in the Dominican or in Latin America, $1 million that's 4 generations of money if you take it the right way. So when you say, hey, we're going to pay you $12 million a year for the next 6 years. Now in a baseball mind, I say Ronald Acuna for 12 million. And I don't know if that's the number, but for that number, anything less than 20 million a year, that's a steal. Obviously the player union wasn't a huge fan of it, but at the same time, you have to realize Ronald Acuna and Ozzie Albies are best friends. They are going to be on the team for at least the next 7-8 years. So that counts for something. And once again, when it's all said and done, and Acuna has his $80 million, that is massive amounts of money for Latin Americans. And that is something, for us, I think as Americans is get as much as possible. You can go get more over here or this or that, but hey, I can live off this very comfortably, no matter where you are. Latin America or not, you can live comfortably off that. And I get a chance to be on a team that's, right there. Maybe the Padres have surpassed them, but right there. And I get to play with my best friend in Ozzie Albies or Ronald Acuna, vice versa. And that's a tough one. But for the investment side of things, I believe it's a necessary evil. It's it's America, right? You invest in someone early, you get a right to a payout. And this isn't certain situations, sometimes when you hear about other situations, I can't think of the player off the top of my head, but mainly it might have been a player who defected from Cuba to the point where he was getting shaken down by the people who brought him or arranged the transport, 5 years after the fact, because they got paid, and then homeboy signed, and once again, I don't know his actual name, or it's escaping me, but signs a big contract. And then all of a sudden, these guys want to come back and say, hey, we want to renegotiate. Don't work like that. But it's very interesting because normally, like I said, Fernando Tatis Sr., you would have to imagine had, a bit of money left over. He never signed a big time contract, but he made good money for, Latin America. So interesting, but I think it's just part of I don't want to say necessary evil, because most of the time it's not evil. I mean, it's a business transaction. They invest in you early, and then later on, that's the percentage you paid for. But they are very happy. I know that, and I was thinking about that, going, "Wow, maybe we weren't Fernando Tatis's biggest fans. Maybe this investment group was Fernando Tatis's biggest fan. They might have sent some agents into the Padres too to maybe puff up that number." But yeah, Fernando Tatis is going to be a Padre the next 14 years. Spring training has begun, or at least pitchers and catchers games will get rolling here in the next couple weeks. And, one thing that I jumped out to me, and is actually through a friend of mine brought it up, Mackenzie Gore in camp, obviously, probably maybe on the fringe of making the team, coming into camp wearing number 1, which might not mean anything. Full disclosure, might not mean anything. Might mean, hey, number 1 was open and they gave it to him. But when you see a top prospect get a number that's, anything less than 40, essentially 30, that tells you're going to see a lot of, in spring training, you're going to see a lot of 86s, a lot of 75s with no names on the back.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Gore is getting number 1 right out of the gate. So it's interesting to me. I don't know where he would fit into this rotation outside of unseating Chris Paddock. I'm a big fan of trying to keep Chris Paddock, in the bullpen or away from high leverage situations until maybe I've said it once, I'll say it a million times, just maybe can bring himself emotionally down a level or two. I love the emotion. I do. But as a pitcher, you need to have a bit of calm to you too. You're not a, middle linebacker. You're not a defensive end who can just run on full-fledged adrenaline the whole game. You have to take a deep breath. But we will see there, a month, really 5 weeks to figure out who will break camp with this team. I'm really, really excited, not just for obviously this team to compete, but to see if the Mackenzie Gore can break camp with the team.
Yeah, excited that spring training is here. I like number 1 though. I mean, Tempe, Gary Templeton.
Yeah, and for me, when I was playing baseball, I always wore number 4 because I was always one of kind of the smaller kids. So, the numbered jerseys, it wasn't, oh, I want that. Okay, well, you got 6 kids that are bigger than you, so you're going to get 12 or whatever it is, but that for, number 1, it definitely isn't a number I think of too often when it comes to baseball. Obviously, you brought up Gary Templeton, but really is kind of more, at least for me, jumps out to me as more of a goalie hockey number, a hockey goalie number. You don't see too many 1s out there on the field, or at least that I can notice. But very, very interesting as we get closer into spring training.
How many 09s do you remember?
No, none.
Benito.
Yep. Yeah, it's all in the number. We shall see if that holds true or not. Moving on to it was a weird 12 hours for me. I'll be honest. It went from the night announcing. Actually, let's give credit where credit is due. Coach Lupian dropping the bombshell on the podcast where, like you said, if we weren't live on Facebook, I probably would have stopped the pod and been like, okay, hold on. Yeah. We need to take a breath real quick. But yeah, Coach Lupian dropping the breaking news. Full disclosure, I was looking for another source to verify, and it did come through. But so that was great news. And then 12 hours later, the news out of Philadelphia that Carson Wentz traded, the Carson Wentz era officially over in Philly. Obviously, myself, a huge Eagle fan, I saw this coming. He is heading to Indianapolis to reunite with Frank Reich, and really a great situation for him. Zach Ertz has already said he wants to follow Carson Wentz there. That will probably need to take a release there.
I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, that was it's not going to be as cut and dry. Zach Ertz is still under contract, but most people expected Zach Ertz to be released. Deshaun Jackson was released as well. It's in Philadelphia. It is full-fledged rebuild. I'll tell you what, as an Eagle fan, this doesn't make sense to me. I understand Carson Wentz wants out. I understand it looks like the franchise is moving in a different direction, whether it's Jalen Hurts, whoever they draft, or someone else that we don't know of. Deshaun Watson, please. That would be the only thing that makes me happy at this point, would be Deshaun Watson. But for Carson Wentz to be traded, to get in this year's pick, they get a 3rd round pick. Next year, they get a conditional 2nd. So how that's going to work, if Carson Wentz takes 75% of the snaps during the regular season for the Colts, the Eagles will get the Colts' 1st round pick, not their 2nd round. And if the Colts make the playoffs, Carson Wentz only needs to play 70% of the snaps. So, I mean, you'd have to imagine that's very kind of injury. That language is very injury related there. 75% of the snaps, 70% of the snaps, and make the playoffs. That will move it up to a 1st round pick. It won't go down. It will not turn into a 3rd round, 2nd round at worst. Mm-hmm. The worst part about this for me is what stays on the books. The Eagles will have the biggest piece of dead money in NFL history. It was Jared Goff, with his deal when he was sent to the Lions. The Rams had to hold on to, I believe, $22 million of Jared Goff's deal. Philadelphia Eagles will hold on to $34 million of Carson Wentz's deal. That's bad. And let's couple it with the fact that the Eagles are the 2nd worst team when it comes to salary cap space. This is a rock and a hard place and a nuclear weapon at this point. That's where the Eagles are. They don't have a direction in my mind. Jalen Hurts showed glimpses, but I'm not sold. And when it comes to Carson Wentz, if you're going to have to eat $34 million, you're not getting a top 10 pick, and you're not getting maybe an actual player back. I believe you should have kept him. There was a lot of talk that he wasn't talking to Doug Peterson towards the end. Well, guess what? Doug Peterson is no longer here. I mean, if Nick Sirianni walked in and went, no, I don't want Carson Wentz, fine. But I don't think Nick Sirianni did that. I think Nick Sirianni wants to see as much, pieces that he can play with. I think more the merrier. And then if camp gets through, he realizes that Carson Wentz is no good, then okay, whatever. But I don't believe that. We go back to the Super Bowl. Look what happens when you have a bad offensive line. I mean, Mahomes made some incredible plays, or tried to, but still was running for his life. Well, that was one game for the Chiefs. It was the entire season for the Eagles. They had absolutely no offensive weapons to help Carson Wentz, and they're going to give up on him after they literally just gave him this massive contract. I know he wanted out. I know he asked for a trade, and I know it seems like Jalen Hurts is the answer, but for $34 million, you might as well keep him on the roster. I mean, it just blows my mind that the Eagles just think that they can just trade away this guy that they just signed to a massive contract, get a 3rd and a 2nd round pick, and put all their eggs in a basket for a guy who started 5 games, who, if you watch those games, regressed every single game. I'm not saying he was bad, but he got worse every single game. To me, that tells me the film is out. The defensive coordinators know how to beat you. If that's the case, I mean, I don't know what more you can do. We're in a situation where going into the draft, it was a slam dunk that we are taking a wide receiver. Now I'm 50-50. Do we need to take another quarterback? It's a really interesting situation for the Eagles. I love to sit here and say they have a plan, but Howie Roseman is fully on the chopping block now. He is one of the few general managers that has been able to survive 3 or 4 head coaches. Normally, your 2nd head coach gets fired, you go with him. Howie Roseman is officially on the hot seat. He's been on the hot seat. His seat should be on fire as far as I'm concerned. He really should have gone with Doug. I go back to last year, draft night. I had to go on mute because I had a freak out because they took Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. No disrespect to Jalen Reagor, but we saw what Justin Jefferson did. I guarantee you, We get 2 more wins. We're in the playoffs if Justin Jefferson is on the Eagles roster. Guaranteed. Anyways, I got way too frustrated on that. And the first time I was able to actually talk about the trade, and it's just incredibly asinine to me that you pay someone to take your franchise quarterback.
I'm glad you got that all out because I don't want it to affect your shows moving forward. But I understand your frustration because you just got through some stale debt money that the Padres just owed, like James Shields and Kemp and all those Derek Norris and all those guys, and now you got more money like on your books with Carson from one sport to the other.
I've gotten away from it with the Padres, and it's now come into the. I can't win, but you know what? The Eagles got me my trophy. The Padres need to go get me my World Series. Damn it!
You gotta go. You got to go through adversity, my friend.
Yeah, it's true. It's just it blows my mind that. I'm all for. I understand the situation of sometimes you have to pay somebody to leave. Yes. Sometimes you have to pay a team to take someone off your hands. I don't think we were in a spot where you needed to pay another team 34 or at least hold on to $34 million to have Carson Wentz go somewhere else. I think you could have found somewhere on this team. And he might not have been happy if he loses out in the job in training camp. But you know what? Guess what? You're making a lot of money. Shut up. Hold the clipboard. We'll figure it out next year. But I think they jumped the gun on this. The money that sticks around is the big part. Because like you said, I mean, it's dead money. You are, and we go back, Coach, you've brought this up probably more times than I'd like to admit with the Frank Reich. Was he the reason? And common denominator, Frank Reich leaves the year after the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz, he declined, period. He got worse. I'm not saying he got bad, but he got worse. He was an MVP, and then he continually dropped. Now, once again, I believe this past year when he was really bad, a part of it was because he had no talent on the offensive side, at least weapons-wise, and a bad offensive line. And Carson Wentz is a notorious too much or he tries to do way too much. And
risk taker.
Yes. Oh my goodness. He's Brett Favre without the kind of cocky attitude. He's very soft-spoken, but he's got that gunslinger mentality. You can't really do that. You're going to get eaten alive, especially in a city like Philadelphia. I wish Carson Wentz the best of luck. I will always love and respect what Carson Wentz did. I know he wasn't on the field when we won the Super Bowl, but we don't win the Super Bowl unless Carson Wentz does that and puts us in a position to get the number 1 seed and succeed. Yes, Coach.
Is that an Indianapolis Colts blue behind you?
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
This is my wow.
Oh, I'm just saying.
Wow.
You know what? I know. In transition, though, for your sake, they better use those picks and drafted Tatis Jr. as compensation.
Unbelievable. I mean, you better bring someone in. You have to bring someone in. And that's, the question for me is, I don't have faith in my general manager. So what is 2 extra draft picks? How's that supposed to make me feel better when this guy can't pick the right guy? What are 2 extra chances that he's probably going to miss? How's that supposed to make me feel better?
Yeah.
And believe me, luckily the Philadelphia fan base is incredibly rational. They don't jump to conclusions.
Obviously, right now.
Very sarcastic in this situation, but it's not a whole lot of fun in Philadelphia right now if you're an Eagle fan. Hey, but what I suggest, go look up on YouTube. I've watched the game about 150 times. Just rewatch the Super Bowl. It's a lot of fun. I guarantee you they win. So that's all I got there for the Eagles.
Just don't look to put any money down on it. It's already.
Yeah, well, if you do, and you want the Patriots, give me a call. Hit me up on Twitter. I will be sure to take that bet.
Yeah.
I'll even give you 7.5, or you can even take 7.5 points. So, anyways, moving on to the last bit of news. It's been a couple weeks since San Diego State has, I guess I don't want to say been relevant to make it on the show, but they've been on a bit of a run, a really good run. They've won 7 in a row, all by a combined 27.5 points. Yeah. The last game against Fresno State, I believe, was 14 or 15 point differential. That was the closest there were Wyomings and Air Forces mixed in there. But hey, you take care of your business. Aztecs are 16-4. They sit fourth, I believe, in the conference lineup, but I think they're tied with Colorado State. I don't know how the tiebreak goes, but the 3-4 is, kind of a big deal because obviously more than likely the 4 seed will face the 1 seed in the semifinals. The 3 seed will face the 2 seed in the semifinals. So you won't have to play Boise until the finals if you are a 2 or a 3 seed, assuming you handle your business. Yeah. San Diego State has 3 games left. They'll have the game against Fresno State, I believe, tonight or tomorrow.
Today at 4:30.
Today at 4:30 up in Fresno. And then next week, I believe it will be Thursday and Saturday will be a finishing up here at San Diego State. It will be against Boise. Big matchup. Boise is, of course, at the top of the leaderboard in the Mountain West. San Diego State, once again, sneaking into the top 25. They're number 25 in the AP poll. I'll tell you what, though, their kind of history, at least this year when they snuck into the AP top 25, they've struggled lately. So we'll see. But Fresno State and the way San Diego State's playing against and kind of beating up on these teams they're supposed to, I feel confident going into tonight. But what I've noticed in these Mountain West games is the second game is, I don't want to call it a trap game, but it's definitely a game that's not going to probably go the exact way the first game went. There's going to be a lot of adjustments here and there. Yes. I think we talk about Fresno State, that familiarity with that coaching staff.
Yep.
I wonder if, if that looking ahead right now, is San Diego State looking ahead to those 2 games against Boise because they still have to handle their business against Fresno State? The way college basketball is, in my mind, just because you're ranked number 25, I still believe San Diego State's on the bubble. 1 loss to a team that they shouldn't lose to. If they split with Boise, I don't think it's devastating.
Right.
They lose to Wyoming in the first round of the tournament. That's devastating. They lose tonight to Fresno State. Devastating. So despite being ranked, I don't think they're completely off the bubble, but they're definitely in a better spot than they were a couple weeks ago.
I'm glad you brought up the bubble because I think this is the one time that name value will come into effect. Reputation and name value this year for the NCAA tournament, if they split at Boise or they split against Boise, and the choice is Colorado State, San Diego State, I think the NCAA committee will go with San Diego State. One, not only because they split, they redeemed themselves the second game. They split against the number 1 team in Boise State. Let's just hope they take care of business against Boise. But I think this is the year that at least name value will take precedent when it comes to at least that second or third team in the Mountain West. But I don't think I think they realize they can't take this Fresno State team, overlook them just because of the closeness and the similarities and everything. I think Dutch has this team focused on 1 game at a time, the old coach's cliche. And look at it. You got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before Boise. That's plenty of time. I think that's kind of one of those things with these series. The way the schedule's been with these series is between teams, there's a lot of time. And San Diego State, we've kind of missed them because that whole New Mexico fiasco, and then and they were on the road, but they still had a lot of time. That's still a lot of time to prepare for a familiar Boise State team because we have an assistant, Justin Ackers, that was just there. Is it Justin? That's Coach Ackers, though, that was just there a couple years ago. So there's some familiarity with some of those individuals on that team. And by now, what the other team's running. They know what you're running. It's how you execute that on the defensive side and then how fluent you are on the offensive side. So, take care of Fresno State today, please. And then we'll talk Boise State moving forward next Saturday.
Hopefully we'll be talking next Saturday about San Diego State, winning the next 2 games and possibly finishing the season off with another win at Boise, but we shall see.
I have a question. Have you
Yeah.
heard or read anything in regards to the Mountain West basketball tournament? Normally by now, people are getting their reservations and tickets ready for Las Vegas, you know? And I haven't heard anything. It has to be bubbleized. You're gonna have to have somewhere, and I'm not too sure I know what Nevada is doing in regards to they're open, but as far as the risk factors for
Yeah, I
COVID
haven't
cases,
heard
I didn't,
anything
yeah,
specific. I feel like in this situation, it's kind of no news is good news. But a lot of what I think it is just trying to figure out who's going to come. We see with the West Coast Conference. If you haven't yet, don't
sure.
forget to go check out myself and Raider Jim. Yesterday, we did another episode of In the Paint. We talked about Gonzaga and BYU, essentially wondering whether or not they should even go to the West Coast Conference tournament. And I completely understand their thought process. Both of those teams are in the tournament, big tournament. You're opening yourself up to being exposed and essentially ruining any chance of making it into the NCAA tournament. And they really don't have anything to prove. But I will say this, if that is the case, the NCAA has to pretty much just tell the West Coast Conference, you can do what you want, but you're not getting an automatic bid. It's not fair to an at-large team that would essentially lose an at-large spot to whether, it be no disrespect to Santa Clara, San Francisco, USD, those teams, but it's just, you're not a tournament team. That's not if you go out and you win a tournament with Gonzaga and BYU in it, fantastic. Here's your automatic berth. But
Right.
when that's happening, no. So for me, I don't know what the right answer is because I see it from both sides. If I'm Gonzaga and BYU, I would hate as a sports fan for Gonzaga to have an outbreak and NCAA go, sorry, you're not going to be able to play in the tournament. I mean, that would just be an absolute nightmare. So I understand why Gonzaga is saying that, but at the same time, it's kind of that conference camaraderie because Gonzaga's kind of got to, I think, bite the bullet here and say, you know what, we are going to go. We are going to go. We're going to play because at the end of the day, it's about the conference. It's about trying to get the West Coast. And believe me, Gonzaga has done pretty much the entire heavy lifting for this conference for the last 20 years. So I understand that. But it's about trying to, allow the West Coast Conference to play a tournament. Because like I said, if Gonzaga or BYU say, you know what, we're going to skip it, I think you have to cancel the tournament. It's unfortunate. Once again, I don't know what the right answer is because I could see it both ways. Once again, if you're Gonzaga and as a fan myself, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but it's a rock and a hard place. And it's just kind of where we are, right, in the world. None of us really know what the exact right answer is. I think a lot of us just kind of in the last year kind of doing a lot of probing, like, all right, let's see. Oh, I walked over here, I didn't fall through, so let's just keep on this track. And it is what it is. You're seeing a lot of Mountain West doing the series. A lot of other conferences aren't. Well, guess what, Mountain West has been okay. I know they've had some little outbreaks here and there, but compared to what's going on in the SEC, compared to what's going on in the Big 12 in certain situations, although that's more weather related for those Texas teams, but it's been tough. And I hope that the right thing is done. And when it comes to the West Coast Conference, the only problem with that is I just don't know what the right thing to do is. So I'm just going to be on the sidelines and cheering, hoping everyone stays safe. We get to see Gonzaga in the big tournament, and we get to see the big tournament. It was announced that there will be fans in the stands for the tournament. 25%. I think that's where we're going to be for the next couple years, to be honest. 25, 50%. I was talking with my mom about it. I'll tell you what, you tell me 25%, I can go to Petco. I know I'm going to be able to put my feet up in front of me. There's not going to be anyone near me. I get a foul ball. I don't have to jump over people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of cool. Now, when you think about, a playoff game, the tickets now will probably be 4 times more expensive because it's supply and demand. Okay, that's another story. But it'll be very interesting to see how everything goes. But I think for us sports fans, first and foremost, at least baseball wise, let's get the season started. If we're invited into the stadium, fantastic. I just want to see a 162 game season. I do expect at some point this year, Petco Park to allow fans in. I don't think they can go 2 full years, or at least a year and a half, without asses in the seats, people buying concessions, because that's 65% of their money. So
and there's 640 million tied up in a couple cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some bills coming in now. The bills are rolling in now. So that is all I have for us today. Coach Lupian, anything else you wanted to add?
No, not really. You know, I loved your rant. I didn't want to steal your shine. And as far as my Saints go, you know, the biggest news is um, signing Zach Strief from the broadcast booth to the coaching staff. There it is. I'm sure, I don't know if my rant will be as powerful as yours once, you know, the quarterback situation gets figured in New Orleans. But dude, that was amazing. I loved it. I love the energy.
Yeah, I don't normally get that worked up this early in the morning, but yeah, it was the first time I was able to kind of, and I wasn't really even planning on it. It just kind
What's
of,
in your cup?
if you watch the video, I think you watch it back, you can kind of like see me slowly but surely get maybe a little more red in the face.
Yeah.
But it was,
I
it's
just sat back. I just
yeah,
sat back.
I did see that. Yeah,
Whoa.
I did.
Let this guy roll. I'm not gonna interject, but you know, yeah, there's still a lot of uncertainty, and I look forward to our Wednesday shows talking about what the futures of not only our Eagles and our Saints, but Raider Jim's Raiders, of course. And then you know we have our the drafts coming up in April. You know,
Yep.
so looking forward to all those transaction time. You know, like MLB, I look forward to the hot stove news. You know, and the only one really turning the stove on has been our Padres, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
It's the perfect. That's how I kind of want to end it. Is, you know, for the Padres, this was the perfect offseason. You know, they got everything they needed. They didn't give a ton up. You know, with all due respect to Will Cox. I know Patino was there. I think Abrams or Edwards. I get Abrams and Edwards mixed up, but one of those two did leave. But in terms of who we got back, we didn't give up any of our top 2 or 3 prospects. We get Snell and Darvish. And when it's all said and done, the only thing that I wanted outside of this, after the Darvish and Snell deals came through, the only thing I kept asking for, please sign Tatis Jr. to an extension. It's happened. Yeah. And that's it. I had my cake, and it's time to eat it too, which I never understood that, by the way. I'm just going to go on a little. Never understood when people say, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Well, why are you going to give me a cake? What is the point of giving me a cake if I can't eat it? But anyways, it is a very, very interesting offseason, and the Padres have won it. But unfortunately, last time I checked, no trophies were awarded for any offseason moves. So we will have to see it happen in the next 6 months, and I can't wait to do it. And we'll be here every week to break it down. As usual, Coach, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone out there listening. As always, it is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. We will talk to you all very soon. Have a wonderful weekend.